Charts for the End of Days is the title sequence of the next book that I'm working on. Charts is a serial poem. It's about 20 sections, each dated. What I was trying to do, as the epigram to the poem, which is by Robert Lowell, says, why not say what really happened, is to kind of list or chart what's occurring immediately in the vicinity of where I'm living and also happening in the media environment in which I live. I'm really following a prediction in May of 2011 by the Reverend, the Christian fundamentalist Reverend Harold Camping, who's a broadcaster in Oakland, who has predicted the rapture to occur later in the month of May 2011. And I'm sort of counting down with him, writing a poem in a kind of bardic manner where I'm trying to get the strangeness of the way the world was as it moved past me at this point. And as you'll see in the last section, I will read the first and the last sections. The rapture wasn't coming. What was coming was my own appendix rupture. So that was a typo. I missed it by one letter. So I was trying to be prescient and I was pretty close. So I'll read the May 11th section and then I'll read the last section. The poem is called Charts for the End of Days. The epigram is by Robert Lowell from his poem Epilogue. Why not say what really happened? May 11th. I want to begin to say what we heard on the news, though there were different versions. 3 people died, shot to death on the 5th floor of the 10th Street garage, the forbidding one, where it feels you could vanish, trying to get out. Some said the alert system didn't work, or worked all right for some. Some heard 6 or 8 shots. A few in houses nearby said they heard 2 rounds of popping sounds. Dozens of others were on the sidewalk wondering what happened, while others still in classrooms reported they heard nothing. We don't know anything yet about them, their names, their ages, sex, only that they were connected to the university, their lives unnoticed, announced by their deaths. It was reported that 2 earthquakes, 4.5 and 5.1, struck near the town of Lorca, Spain. 20,000 buildings damaged. The Red Cross said it took 350 ambulances to evacuate the town's 2 hospitals. A medieval town located near a fault that runs beneath the blue Mediterranean, where the European and African continents converge. The second, the worst, occurring at 6:47 p.m. local time. That's 5:47 p.m. in London, 12:47 a.m. in New York, and 9:47 a.m. in San Jose, California. The garage blocked off, police still swarming. May 24th, this is the last section. My molecules have become confused. There's been a disturbance in the force. The LAPD announced they found the guy who beat the Giants fan, Brian Stowe, 7 weeks ago. They found him because a parole officer thought his guy, a gang member with a shaven head, looked like the image on the poster. The guy had a new tattoo on top of the one that would identify him as the attacker. It didn't look right. 66 years ago to the day, Ezra Pound was locked in a 6x6 steel mesh cage on the plain north of Pisa, considered by the U.S. Army a dangerous person or a threat to himself. Unrepentant, he lived exposed on 4 sides in a death cell, his roof a metal plate. To prevent suicide, he was allowed no belt or shoelaces, sleeping on a slab with only thin blankets to stave off the cold nights, and no books except the Bible. Pull down thy vanity, he wrote in Canto 81. Learn of the green world, what can be thy place. His senses sharpened, he noticed each grass blade, each clover leaf that opened by his gorilla cage, and the mint that springs up. Opening his lizard's eye, he wrote he was saved by an ant's forefoot. After 3 weeks, the camp psychiatrists found signs of imbalance. At the department graduation, I try not to double over at the podium from the hurt in my belly. The room at the periphery of my eyes is getting red. This is supposed to be celebratory, but it feels like a harpoon has been jammed through my colon. I don't tell anyone seated on stage with me what's going on. I make it through the speeches, the long oratorio of names, but something terrible is happening inside me. I excuse myself when it's over, joking I have to go home to let the alien chew its way out. I'm not feeling at all well. Maybe I can sleep it off, but it gets worse. Pamela calls the nurse when I start moaning at 4 a.m. It hurts so much, it's all I can do just to lie there writhing, imploring intervention by anything approaching the miraculous. It takes 4 firemen to hoist me off the mattress onto the gurney and into the ambulance. I'm yelling gibberish when they insert the IV. Though it hurts beyond belief, with a scalded voice I repeat, I can't stand it, but I don't want opiates. By the time we get to emergency, I'm blathering. The resident presses my gut, his skin like an embalmed rose. They claim to want to help me, but whatever they do hurts more. They finally give me something to unclench me. They need to look inside my body. They inject a dye and slide me into the barrel of a machine that throbs like a spaceship. Then they tell me they need to get me into surgery, but they have to wait for a bed. Then they shave me and wire me to the monitors and dance through my arteries chemicals that will knock me out and turn me into meat. The last thing I remember is a weird fluorescent taste, and the Australian nurse who flew back 18 hours to get to this operating room holding my hand as they strapped me down. She was saying they'd make a small incision to put the scope in, but in the end, they couldn't. They did an open appy. When I woke up, they said I was gangrenous, septic, spiraling toward my expiration. It was a typo, those predictions of the rapture. The prophecy should have read, rupture, a calculation not for the end of days, but for my days ending. With my bayou ribbon off the chart and my body clogged with toxins, to be saved, I had to be cleaned out. They sewed my innards back, but left me open, attached to a wound vac that sucks fluid out of the gash in my belly, a gaping chasm that won't completely close. This poem is called Was Up, W-A-S-S-U-P. Was up. Hey, hey, let's go. Things are out of control. Rats are getting through the door again. People have forgotten how to cry at funerals. The gerbil just hangs there on its wheel. In the park, the young are tired of being beaten by the old, but they prefer supersonic nightsticks to those who would kill their initiative, plying them with caviar. Do you feel me? You gotta sit your ass down in the square to catch the heavy metal. Occupy the space, bro. The map is not the territory. You gotta drink the beer. The center will not hold, y'all. On either side, the tide is extreme. Soak your bandana in balsamic and breathe the good tidings. This ain't no Tunisia. The love you get is a smoking scrap of shrapnel. This poem is called The Unknown Unknown, thanks to Donald Rumsfeld for that phrase. This is a persona poem, and I suspect I'm in the voice of Detective Holder again, or somebody just rather like him. Kind of a mashup of social commentary and street patois. The Unknown Unknown. Another bonehead play. Going incognito in a yellow sombrero to El Puello Loco to cop a three-piece combo. Tutti frutti for dessert, my favorite frozen yogurt. Monks in saffron robes flying low overhead in their private jet. Approaching the airport. Buddha stenciled on the fuselage. Full frontal. Bet they're jonesing for some Thai food. The Dow is down again. I owe in my advance. Small as the debt, I thought. God, I had no interest. Death on the installment plan. My gallstones can't take it. Still, I shan't pluck them out. Smell my way to a ginseng fix. Munch on some water chestnuts. Skip the caramel corn. Even the Taj Mahal needs some upkeep. I'm lactose tolerant and gluten free. Give it up, yo. Gots to get my beauty sleep. This poem, The Known Unknown, is a companion poem to the last one, The Unknown Unknown. And again, thanks to Donald Rumsfeld for his great phrase making. And for the voice of this poem, I should acknowledge the detective character on The Killing, Detective Holder, for his voice, and also the influence of the poet John Berryman in his dream songs, particularly the sequences about Henry. Huffy Henry hid the day, those parts. So this is called The Known Unknown. Late light, rain in June, kinda weird. I shelter beneath a catalpa tree. Its leaves like elephant ears. It's my corpse and beans. The sky's glowing charcoal shows through the filigree. After Fukushima, you gotta ask, how radioactive is this shit? Don't want no Japanese fallout messing with me. If we adopt a common core, every kid in the country will have to read the same thing. How sick is that? How do you spell communism? The dancer from the dance, doe. What's the difference? Just check what's in the water. Strontium is measured in curies. It's in the topsoil, dog. They be finding it in my KFC. That bird be mocking me. Can't shut it up. Leave me to my worrying. Got an appointment to talk to the doc. He wants to hook me up to the heart machine. Can't talk to him about what I know. He'll say it gots to come out. Come on, dude. I'm a closer. Going around with this shit in my head, it makes me tired to death. This is called In Jeffers' Cabin. I had the opportunity to spend a whole day in a cabin that was used once, the home of Robinson Jeffers and his wife, Una Call Custer, before they built Tor House. So this would have been in Carmel, California, before the year 1919. And I spent the day writing this poem in this place. In Jeffers' cabin. From the street, the green wall of laurel and ivy blocks the view. The rough-hewn steps, rotten, askew, still hold human weight. I unlock the chain and push open the door's heavy plank. This is the place the poet arrived with the beloved bride of his verses. Learned to carve from the gray morning air syllables of stone before he found the granite to make his own house. I sit at his long table, a single split timber, the grain varnished by human weather, and look down his canyon at the sun-dappled street, still canopied with live oaks and cypress, where over the noise of the stream he heard a voice rehearsing invective against the world's war. No phantom, but Mary Austin's. On just such a morning, he may have hunkered, as I did, into his hard chair and crossed his elbows on the desk to be startled by a scrub jay flying to the log mantle above the bastion of the blackened fireplace, pausing at Una's mirror, then circling beneath the roof beams before finally exiting, the cabin filled with fluttering, the human concentration broken by something hungering to get in and get out, caught between the nerve's clear impulse and the mind's confusion. No wonder he preferred to praise rock's severe beauty, the encryption stopping the pain of things, the last unmisunderstood word, outside the ocean's echo, ongoing. Run Out of Miracles is the title of this poem. A little bit of a mashup in here of T.S. Eliot's Proof Rock, and Elizabeth Bishop's At the Fish Houses gets in here somehow. And a few things off the air from NPR. Run out of miracles. But there's still candy and an old age home for apes retired from the laboratory. When the blood sugar rises, there's always insulin. There's surgery when the line runs on too long. We can vote for our favorite toad to take to the tea party. We can watch the bottom line sink lower than the floor of the adjoining ocean. Sweetheart, you've got to straighten out before something else goes south between us. One of us is non-essential. The sun's become unhinged, crashing into us like the proverbial symbol it is. Now we've got to get away from something that we don't know but suspect is wanting to annihilate us by slow degrees, that wears holes in our pants and unravels our sleeves when we're not looking. We're a pair of rabid thoughts scuttling along the edge of a dun-colored sea. Step into it and it burns strongly. What a drag it is to have lived long enough to get this is the reward, the payback for having touched the earth without knowing what kind of rock you've been sitting on the last 60 years. 21st Century Portrait is a poem I sort of wrote in honor of the Great Recession, but I was prescient. I wrote it before 2008. And I tried to imagine a character who's a speaker. Well, it's a character since I'm using the third person, whose occupation no longer is valid economically. 21st Century Portrait. After he was laid off, he stood in the heat, listening to the arguments of afternoon. Around him, cars nosed into their stalls. He noticed a blister between his thumb and forefinger, a broken, whitish flap of skin, no one to complain to but the wind. So he spoke to no one in his gnarled accent, the car radio abrading his brow, and sat hunched, hands on the wheel of the 91 Cutlass, speedometer stuck at 60, before turning the key, hearing the cylinders fire their fat, familiar bursts, that brilliant, hollow-throated thrum rattling down his arm's ulnar nerves, a wrecked alphabet affixed to the driver's side corner of the windshield, decals peeling off sun-seared glass, a smell like bacon left out all day in the pan, an incipient rancidness, a metallic tang of blood pooled behind his tongue, eyes suddenly stung by salt dripping off his forehead, the surge bringing down its full weight upon him, knowing what a piece of shit all this is, and what the hell is he going to do about it? Biology. This is a memory poem, embellished. Language does that. In junior high, I was the first to faint at the frog's vivisection. I broke into a cold sweat at the spurt of blood when the pin was inserted into its brain, and the scalpel slid into the living belly, and the skin was peeled back, and the spaghetti of intestines pulled aside. I couldn't watch the ticking bag of the heart without becoming woozy, the world draining to white, hearing voices through my stomach asking if I was okay. Someone yelled to put my head between my knees, which I did, like I was examining the entrails of a dream. As I do now, half swooning, arranging the alphabet into decipherable threads that should not be dissected except by the woman coming toward me, whose perfume is an encryption, a line on her jaw, and holding a blade in her mouth.